From Toronto, this is JWeekly Canada, starring Ieden Wall and Susan Minuk. Here is Ieden Wall.
So I'm so pleased to be here today.
Well, you know what? We're pleased to have you.
That's kind.
We're not just pleased, we're elated to have you here on Canadian Jewish television.
Thank you. That is very kind. The reason I'm so pleased to be here is because when I went and had a look at your portfolio
What'd you
online,
find? What'd you find? Anything good?
I found a really incredibly smart, strategic trajectory of creating one success with your career and then building on it and building on it to the point where you are now, which is, I dare say, quite successful. And you still have lots of room to grow in that if you choose.
I thank you very much for saying that, but I want to point out that sometimes there is a mild disparity between creative success and financial success, but we're getting there, and we're really, really happy with the way this show is growing, and we're happy to have really interesting, fascinating guests like you. Let's talk about you. I appreciate your kind words, though. You're a very interesting lady. You have Careers, this book, which sold many copies, Careers AF. Now, what in the world does AF stand for? Do we need to bleep this out?
Yeah, you need to bleep it out.
Okay, well, but listen, you can't be ashamed if you're going to write the book.
I'm not ashamed of it.
What does it stand
Careers
for?
As
Wow.
And it is designed to get the attention of the biggest demographic.
You got my attention.
The biggest demographic that needs it. Millennials recognize this. When you say AF about something, it means you really like it. It's cool. So that's why I named that to
Yeah,
the
and
book
you
that
really
way.
are a cool executive career coach. And cool is the operative word. Now, tell our viewers very clearly what is an executive career coach and why the market needs somebody like you.
Oh, thank you for asking. The market needs executive career coaches because as you work through your life, you become ever more targeted in what you want to do, ever more purposeful. And each individual looks at their own trajectory and says, geez, you know, I like what I'm doing, but I could do better. How do I do better? Well, you get an executive career coach and they can help you determine what it is you want to do, and then the really good ones will show you exactly how to do it.
And what I love about you, Michelle, is when I spoke to you very briefly on the phone, you spotted something in me. You said, Ieden, you seem like you're satisfied to a point to have Canadian Jewish television, but it seems like you're longing for something more. And it's true. And then you not only spotted that, but you said, well, here's how I think you can get there. Here's how I think you can take this show from Omni to a larger network to reap more rewards and to reach more people with this good content. And you not only spotted it, you had the intuition to spot it, but then you had an action plan. Action plan is something that people fall short on sometimes, right? So I want to ask you, what's your next step? Because you said to me you should always keep growing in your career, right? And what's your next big thing after this executive career coaching ends? Because I know you always are up to something, Michelle.
I am. I am the most goal-driven person you will ever meet, and every year religiously on my birthday, I don't want a birthday cake, I don't need a party, I don't want a bunch of people around. What I want is the day to myself so that I can get cozy with my own life and make a nice long list for what I want for the year ahead. And then I make a small secondary list for what I want in the next 5 or 10 years so that I am always working towards something. And my plans get an overhaul every year on my birthday.
Now, is it fair to say that animal behavior, animal rescue, the well-being of animals at large are at the true heart of who you are.
Ugh.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Oh,
And that's an understatement still.
I have.
Where did this come from? I'm always amazed at people who are able to show so much love to animals that are so often overlooked because they're an irrelevant species. Well, you watch some of these species and how they live their life carefully, and you will see the kind of brilliance and the kind of sincerity and generosity that us humans sorely lack. Am I right?
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Did I say that okay?
Absolutely. My love of animals comes from my Irish family, my mom's family. They all grew up on a farm, and we all remember the horse king. If King hadn't lived, they would have starved. So our love of animals comes very innately to my family. Me in particular, I have an especial affinity. I think it has something to do with the way that my brain operates a little bit uniquely, and I'm very empathic, and I'm pretty sentient as well. So communicating with animals, I'm not talking having this chat with animals, but communicating with them, reading them, understanding them, appreciating them, none of that is difficult for me. And when you think about it, it dovetails with the work that I do with people.
It does, but I need to jump in there, Michelle.
Yeah.
Let's say a stray cat comes up to us right now. Let's say we're taping this in the park, and a stray cat just wanders right up to you, which they always find you. You know that's true because they have a good sense of who loves them. Wanders up to you now. You said you have this way of communicating. So how would you be able to communicate with this cat, and how would you be able to read the cat?
Oh, well, read the cat by his body condition, by his body language, and his level of sociability or not. You know, there's rabidly
But
feral.
you're not a vet. This is all intuitive.
Well, it's part of the work that I've done in the background throughout
Right,
my entire
right.
life. I've worked with animals all my life. So
I'm just wondering how you, without the verbal component, how you communicate and establish the relationship with a stray animal, to build the trust, number one, and to understand what condition they are in.
yeah, well, you read their body language.
That's
and
it.
you see, you know, do they look stressed? I mean, we all know when an animal is stressed, their ears are sideways.
Right,
I mean, there's very
Telltale signs.
common signs.
I want to talk to you about Katrina. When that awful storm hit, you did something extraordinary. You went there, you picked up. Did you drive there?
Yeah, I closed media intelligence for a month and I drove down.
Unbelievable. You drove down there, you got a group of friends, put up your Canadian flags, old-fashioned, Don Cherry would love this, old-fashioned Canadiana, all heart. You drove down there and you rescued how many stray dogs?
We brought home 60.
60 dogs.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was one of the most remarkable experiences of my life. I'm used to Canadian culture and how we deal with our animals. I had no idea whatsoever what went on in the States. I also had no idea of just how large the animal rescue and advocacy community actually is. And so we ran into, we were all like-minded people. We were all serving the same objective.
This is so fascinating, but we have to take a commercial break. They're giving me the signal here. We'll be right back, more with Michelle Nadon.
You're watching JWeekly Canada. We'll be right back. Welcome back to JWeekly Canada. Here is Ieden Wall.
This is just incredible. So you drive down there with how many people?
We had 3 vans, 6 drivers.
Canadian flags on the vans. I love it so much. You get down there and tell me, pulling in, how does this go? Give it to me kind of like blow by blow.
It was so amazing. So we get out, everyone comes racing up. Oh, Canadians are here, Canadians are here. It was really lovely. And we sat down, and it was my very first vegan meal. There's like no animal products on the premises. We were in a compound, St. Francis Animal Sanctuary, in just north of New Orleans. And I can't remember how many acres, but they did have 800 Katrina dogs rescued from the waters. And so when it came time to volunteering, Dr. Charlie, God love him, came up to me and he said, so what would you like to do while you're here? And I said, well, I can do anything. Like, what do you need? Right? And he said, no. What would you like to do while you're here? So I thought about it, and I thought, well, if I can do anything, I'm like a caregiver. Put me in post-op. So I went into the post-op yurt, and I had a cot there. Slept with about 6 other people, all in like lined up. And my first night, I slept with my hands in a cage with a pit bull who was wearing a cone, and he was extremely distressed. So I just kept my hands in the cage and comforted him. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, you know, I'm seeing this amazing thread, you know, that ties from this love for animals, animal protection, which is pillared on empathy, right? Empathy is a quality that does not land on one place exclusively. If you have empathy for all of God's creations. That's true empathy, is it not?
It is.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but this empathy travels back and forth easily between your love for animals and
my daytime profession.
Your daytime job as an executive career coach, because, you know, I think what allows you to go the extra mile for your clients, which many of your clients, I've spoken to them, and they say that she just won't stop until she gets the job done. And what could drive that other than empathy? Do you want to talk about empathy, why it's so crucial, and then we're going to have to call it a day. But tell me why empathy is so crucial to your profession.
Listen, whether you're an animal or a human, absolutely everybody struggles. Everyone's got a story. Everyone has it hard on some level. And for me, in my life, a lot of it is just natural to me, but a lot of it has actually been developed through the years. I rescue people all day and I rescue animals all night and weekends. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I jokingly, and you may need to beep this, I jokingly refer to myself as the helpful person from hell sometimes, okay? But I can't help it. I can't stand someone, a creature, a human, in need. You can clearly see it in them. I can clearly help. Why wouldn't I?
It seems, am I right, that there was a time in your life when perhaps you were neglected and you needed to be saved. Would that be true?
Yes.
And you want to talk about that just for a few minutes before I let you go and send you on your way to achieve great success in your life?
Well, what I can tell you about it is, I guess I just understand what intrapsychic and interpersonal pain actually is. I know what that is intimately.
How do you know?
Well, because of how my life played out.
But I'm asking, how did it play out? Was there a point of extreme pain that leaves you with this incredible compassion, or you'd rather not go into that now?
Would it help to offer you a diagnosis of chronic post-traumatic stress syndrome? Because I am.
Well, that's what I'm picking up on, and I'm wondering what happened, if you could share it, because I'm sure it would be very inspiring for our viewers.
Chronic denotes lifelong trauma. It doesn't, there are traumatic events, and then there are full chronic traumas going through a person's life. That is how I started out in life. There's an awful lot of trauma, and it hasn't been helped with all the animals that I've dealt with either. That's just compounded it all. But I do have...
What is the nature of the trauma, or is that, would you rather, am I probing too much?
Euthanizing animals, making decisions to euthanize animals. Yeah, that's pretty traumatic.
Who made those decisions?
I make them.
What I love about you is you're sending the message today that you can suffer trauma, most people have at one point or another. You can suffer trauma, you can endure it, you can process it, and you can use it to go into the world and do good.
Yes, because what happens once you have actually understood, been diagnosed, understood what's gone on, done the homework, then you reach post-traumatic growth.
Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all of your what makes you so good at what you do and the background of your life.
Thanks very much for having me. It's
and
been
you're
a
welcome
pleasure.
back anytime.
Cheers.
All right, that is executive career coach extraordinaire Michelle Nadon.
You're watching JWeekly Canada. We'll be right back. Welcome back to JWeekly Canada. From Studio 18, here is Susan Minuk.
Welcome to the studio, Judy.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's so delightful to be here and love your bright, sunny, blissful yellow color.
So, first, I want to just say you are a life coach, a broadcaster, a singer, an author. How do you do all that you do? And are there advantages and disadvantages in having so many things going on? Because you really do.
Thank you.
Do a lot of things.
Thank you. So I know my website might say singer, and I'm going to say I'm not going to take that role because that's my daughter, who is a professional
I've
singer.
heard her.
But for me, I think it fuels me, and I think like you, Susan, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you're excited about, it fuels you, so it never feels like work. Do the thing you love, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
And that's what it really is for me. So, but there's that moment where you want to do something, but you don't because you're almost too much of a perfectionist about it. You think it'll never be as fabulous as you imagine it to be, so you put it off. And that's what I did. I'd had this idea about starting an Instagram page called The Bliss Minute, just with a daily dose of happiness and positivity, that in the morning people could wake up and have their coffee or tea and see just sort of a happy quote or something great. But I kept putting it off. And my husband and I were robbed when we went away on a Christmas vacation, a winter vacation with our family. Some of the most sentimental things were taken, and I was afraid to stay in my house while they were alarming our system, which now is like Fort Knox.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to do. My husband said, listen, I have to work. Why don't you just come to my office every night and be with me? Well, it'll be nice. We can have dinner together. You do your thing. I'll work. We'll work together. And I thought, I could sit and watch Netflix, or I could scroll on my phone, two very fun things to do, or I could get started on this. And I started writing these Bliss Minutes. And all of a sudden I couldn't stop. I was writing reams and reams of them, and then I was videotaping
But just
them.
describe what is a Bliss Minute.
So a Bliss Minute is usually under a minute, and it's just a little video of happiness and positivity where I talk about, give me any word that has to do with happiness or bliss or anything that's on your mind.
Joy, love.
Joy. So joy is the most wonderful thing. Here's a minute. You can choose happiness. Joy is something that you can choose. Many people don't realize that. You can make a choice to live a happier life, and there's a lot of pathways to do that. One is through gratitude. I'm so grateful to be here today. And by at the end of the day saying 5 things that you're grateful for, even though it sounds like something you've heard before, it really works. Another way to be joyful, I think, is through mindfulness and meditation. And I think another way to be joyful is just to put love in your heart, just to sort of be loving, because love sort of conquers everything, right? And when you can just sort of, and also just to brush off the stuff that just doesn't matter, like don't sweat the small stuff. So that would be a Bliss Minute. Maybe not as good as an actual one.
And living in the moment, right? I think to me, living in the moment.
Absolutely.
You can't go too crazy in the past or the future. You're right there.
You're right there,
Enjoy
right
it.
now, enjoying this moment right now. Like there's nothing more perfect than this moment. And that is, that's an example of a Bliss Minute. But a Bliss Minute could be a sneak peek from our show, Finding Your Bliss on Zoomer Radio. It could be a cute little joy is what happens when we recognize how great things really are. A little quote. And so I started to write these quotes and make these videos, and something fascinating happened. somebody notice. So when you're in your sphere, people notice, right? And it starts to take on a life of its own. And a producer came to me and said, I know of an opening at Zoomer Radio for a new show. You've got to get to them really quickly. You have about like a day, because they're going to give up the spot.
So this is where the Jewish term beshert
Beshert,
comes in.
absolutely. But beshert intermingled with hard work,
Yes.
right? And passion.
But
Because-
that's your
yes,
circle, right? That you
that-
this
yes.
was your moment, right? So what did you
Absolutely.
do? What did you do? You
I
jumped on
started
it.
to write. And
Yeah.
what's so cool is, had I not been in the sphere of doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like writing these Bliss Minutes, it might have taken a long time to get the engine started. But I was so in it already that it practically wrote itself. And I wrote 15 pages. I can share it with you. And I sent this beautiful 15-page thing to Zoomer, and they couldn't read my PDF because at the time I was very not tech savvy.
Right.
Now I am very tech savvy. And they said, Judy, we couldn't read your PDF. It was like, I don't know, in another language or something. But come down and do it in person, and let's see what happens. So I went down, did the whole thing in person. They said, that was the most exuberant presentation we've ever heard. We're going to discuss it with the higher ups, which I'm sure meant Moses Neimer and company. And 3 days later, I had a show. And I sort of felt like the mother whose son gets into Harvard and goes, he got into Harvard, now what? Now you got to do it.
Yeah.
And do what I did.
Nobody is always blissful. Things happen in life. There are challenges.
Absolutely.
You know, what happens when you, as a life coach, as a blissful person, an advocate for that, you know, sphere, what happens? Do you turn to your, you know, platform and, you know, go on the principles of your bliss, or how do you get through it?
I get quiet. I have to say that's, I think, a really good trick is when it's just too much,
Right.
just to get quiet. As my friend Mary would say, close the windows and doors and just get quiet and meditate. I think that meditating is one of the most powerful things a person can do for themselves. And a lot of people don't do it because they think it's a big beluga. But you can actually make it 2 to 5 minutes a day and just start your day that way. Or in a stressful moment, even at the grocery store in a lineup or in your car at a red light, do some breathing. Just some beautiful inhales in through your nose and let it all go.
So you and I should have done that before the program. So I'll tell you something. You told me that you do this with your guests.
Yes.
All your guests, you take a minute, or I don't know how many
About
seconds.
a minute, yeah.
Right, and they love it. They enjoy it, and it just kind of sets the pace for the interview. And I think that's really important. We have a very fast-paced life, and
Yes.
everybody does. So that's a really good tip. So thank you, and thank you for being our guest here. Really, it was lovely to connect and chat with you. And
You as well.
Yeah,
You're doing
all the
great,
best.
by the way. Everyone, this is a great show. She's a great host.
thank you, Judy, for the
Great to
plug.
be here.
You're watching Canadian Jewish Television. My name is Susan Minuk. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching JWeekly Canada. See you next week.